up in this like, yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like, I'm really him, on God. Walk up in this like, yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like, I'm really him.
Today, we have a legend in the building. It's your boy, Maxx Crosby. I'm here with my brothers, Brogan Roback, Darian Terrell, Dustin Creel. And today, we have a living legend in the building, Howie Long, Super Bowl champ, 3-time All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, 91.5 sacks, second all-time Raiders history. One of the best D linemen to ever do it. Howie, we appreciate you for coming on. Welcome, brother.
Woo. Thank you. I'm honored. I'm honored to be here. Obviously a big fan. It tickles me pink to watch you every week, and I've been waiting. Greg and all the guys from years and years ago have been waiting for someone like you to roll into the building, and you rolled in. And I think the interesting part is, I think what makes what you're doing so much more impressive than what we had to do as young players. I got there from Villanova, and we have that in common, where you played a small school. I could have been hit by a bus and wouldn't have made page 3. People thought I was black when I got drafted. They thought they were disappointed because they didn't see me on TV. And Matt Millen said we wasted a pick.
That is gold.
But I'm sure you got some of that too when you walked in the building.
Oh, for sure. 100%. When they see me, they're like, who the hell is this skinny-ass Eminem walking in the building? This dude can't play football to save his life.
Is he a rapper?
Yeah, is he a rapper? What has he done? Yeah, some people do.
But when I got there, we just got done playing Delaware, and, one-on-ones first day pit drill, it's Arch L. I'm going from Delaware Blue Hens to Arch L, and I think we were on 2 or 3 flights during college, and didn't really, understand the game. Wasn't good with my hands, technique. We played a 3-man front, 2-gap, straight 2-gap, not slanting. If we blitzed 2-3 times a game. That's it, 2 times a game. We were in cover 1, cover 3. Our corners didn't even have to get in the huddle because they were, it's Mike Haynes and Lester Hayes. They just,
man
why
up.
do you need to get in the huddle? Lester would say, 7-5, you play the run. If it comes over here. You didn't need to look far, and this is where your experience coming in and my experience differ. I didn't have to look far to, the culture was there. I didn't have to look far to what does greatness look like. I've got Al Davis as the owner, Ron Wolf's the GM, Tom Flores is the coach, Jim Otto is around all the time, Freddie Blitnikoff, Ted Hendricks, Art Shell, Gene Upshaw, Cliff Branch. Lyle Alzado comes in my second year. I lived with a guy my rookie year by the name of Cedric Hardman, who's a great pass rusher from the 49ers. We had a little place in Alameda.
Yeah.
My game check max was after taxes $1,007.
Damn.
I had
for the love of the game.
Well, when you come from where I come from, listen, $38,000 with an $80,000 signing bonus, which they broke up over 2 years, was a lot of money. I was happy as a clam. At Villanova in the wintertime, if you didn't get in there for like the 5th shower, the heater went out. So this was pro football. But when you walk in the locker room, guys are smoking Salem Lights, and they're playing cards, and these guys are rough. They're rough riders, and it was an all business kind of established kind of philosophy and culture and the expectation. And I saw that you've taken some of the young guys under your shoulder and I think that's a really good thing, and I think that was always a part of the organization at that time. Whether it was Art Scheller, Gene Upshaw, Lyle Alzado, or Ted Hendricks, and great players who had a great history there and had won Super Bowls and kind of give you guidance as this is what it takes to meet. This is what it takes to practice. This is what it takes to play. This is what it means to be a Raider. And the culture. I know you talk a lot about culture. The culture was an important thing, and you come in, and I don't want to say it was void of that, but it had to be kind of recreated. Yep. History's a great thing, and I know you appreciate history and the players that have come before you, but I think you kind of establishing a new kind of culture and making your own history is exciting for all of us to watch.
I appreciate it. That means the world. And, I talk about it all the time, publicly and, in every meeting and everything, but it's insane. Like when you walk in the building and you see all of you guys on the wall, from Charles to you to Lyle to, like you said, Lester Hayes and Cliff Branch, all the legends. I remember coming in as a rookie and I didn't understand what, culture was or understand what being a Raider was. And then you walk in that building and you see, the torch. The first thing you see is the torch out front. It's like, this is different. And I think it's just special, especially giving back, because I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing unless the guys like you laid the blueprint years ago. So Rob Marinelli was my coach. Rob Marinelli,
yeah.
I'm sure really well. And he talks about the legends. And that's the film I watch to this day is, from Warren Sapp's old film to, the Purple People Eaters to, go all the way back to Doug Atkins and, your guys' D-line. It's like people don't understand how important and how history impacts today, you know what I mean, until you really take a look back and you guys, set the blueprint. So for me, like I take it really serious as far as doing my research and homework, because you guys are the reason why we're able to, talk about being a Raider. That's you guys were that. And, we're just trying to do our best to bring that back to bring it back to light.
And I think everyone is so excited about all that. And like I said, history's great. I think it's great that you appreciate that and respect that, and I certainly did as a young player. It's time, and you know this more than anyone, it's time for this group to make their own history and take that next step. And it's a 53-man roster. It's offense, defense, it's special teams, it's multiple packages, it's rotations. So it's not like basketball where you could pick a guy or two up and suddenly you're a contender.
Yeah.
A lot depends on the quarterback. A lot depends on the offensive line. It's the running game. It's your receiving core. It's them getting you help in the defensive front. One, you play. Listen. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Because I played the same number of snaps.
Yeah.
I didn't rotate. There was no rotating then. Yeah. Now they rotate, and that could be a good thing. It's like you could pick a spot here or there to take a blow, and because inevitably, if I hit you with a hammer enough, you're going to blink. And when you're at the kind of snaps you are, I think you were the number one defensive lineman in snaps played, percentage wise. I'd like to see you rotate a little bit more. I just as call it what you want, an alumni, an older brother, someone who wants to see you do great. And you had a couple of dings in the off season. You had to take care of a couple of things. Been there, done that. In the double digits. And that damn dog, you could ever shut that dog up? He said, preach. He said, preach.
Yeah, he's seconding what you're saying. Talk that shit, man.
But my concern is this. I want you there in the meaningful snaps at the end of the game, the end of the half, in the key situations. Yeah. And I'm sure they've talked about that. And, maybe that's something they've already talked about, or maybe they will talk about. And And I think getting you rotational help, it's like when you don't have someone to rotate with, you got some young guys that look exciting. And you bring your guy in from Miami, and if there's anyone that could maybe come close to your enthusiasm level, he's certainly it. He's just in a bigger package,
All right, y'all. You already know I'm a massive UFC fan. I'm at almost every single event, and there's another big one coming up, UFC 303. I will be in the building. Nothing makes me happier. Nothing better than some great competition, the energy in the building. It's a one-of-one experience. Game Time makes getting tickets for concerts and events faster and easier. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. And these right here are my favorite features. Last-minute deals. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, flash deals. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals and on select seats ahead of the game or event. Take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THERUSH for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THERUSH for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
And the other thing is that, I think about you right away. It takes a while for people to accept something that they don't understand.
Yep.
And people didn't understand you right away. We had a conversation, Mike Mayock, who was the GM with the Raiders and was there when they drafted you. Mike was my host at Boston College when I was a 16-year-old senior in high school. So we go way, way, way back. And he said, look, Howie, this kid's special. I'd appreciate it if you just give him a call and get into a conversation. We talked a lot of football. We talked a lot of moves. We talked about setting up, steps, hands, slap to spin, the whole thing. And without even being on the field there, I'm looking at you on TV and I'm looking film and I'm saying, you did every single thing that we talked about. And I think, you can make the case that, people can have a conversation about Defensive Player of the Year. And really, at the end of the day, the one thing you really want is you want to win. You want to win a championship, and because, that eclipses everything. But, you should be in that conversation every year from this point moving forward. That's one. Yeah. Two, you are the most disruptive defensive lineman in pro football. You think about that. We live on a big planet. How many people can say things like that? On this planet, you're the most disruptive defensive lineman in football because you've got 52 different things you do. You can play inside, you can play outside, you can stand up. It's power, it's post to jerk, it's up and under, it's in, out, it's spin, you do all the things where there are some great players that have got 1, 2, 3 things, and they lean on that all the time, and you see it all the time. And they're really good at it. There are guys that are faster than you. There are guys that are bigger than you. There are guys that are stronger than you. I don't know that there's anybody that puts it together quite the way you do, and I really, really mean that.
That means the world. That means the world, and at the end of the day, I know there's another level I can get to, and that's what keeps me going. You know what I mean? Every single day, I'm looking for another level and another bit of attention to detail, and as far as recovery or this move or my get off or to my stance to, all those things I do every single day on a daily basis, and that means the world. I honestly have nothing else to say. That's crazy, but.
The thing about it is, people like you, and there are a lot of players in the league like this, and I'm not sure that they all think the same way, but I always felt like I never was happy.
Never.
There was
Never.
Sunday night, if we were in a let's say it's near eye left, and it's near far I right and Y off, Y motion. I bring the tight end. And I was a split second late on my first step and gave a little bit of ground and ended up recovering outside, but I gave a little bit of ground. You can't get past that on a Sunday night in your head. The Monday morning meetings, you talk about Marinelli, you talk about Doug Atkins in Chicago. Earl Leggett was my defensive line coach. He was Michael Strahan's defensive line coach. Yeah. He played with Doug Atkins in Chicago. He's one of those Bears. Charlie Sumner, great defensive coordinator. We won a Super Bowl with him. He was also a Chicago Bear. The Monday morning meetings, I think Earl said maybe 5 positive things to me in 6 years, 7 years in a meeting.
Yep.
And that's fine. But I was Earl's guy. Yeah. And there were times when, and it really ended up kind of happening this way, fights would near break out up in a meeting room, in the coach's meeting room at night because of something I did at practice. Yeah. Or, they weren't happy with, you get in a fight. It was just more prevalent in those days.
No doubt.
So I think the first time I was happy, and I hopefully at some point down the road, it takes a lot of luck. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of passion. It takes a lot of understanding from your family that you're so single-minded and this is what I have to do because your window of this is this small. Your window of life is this big. You have opportunity. And the opportunity is to, you're on a path and, it's like you don't talk about no-hitters. You don't talk about things like that. And you're on a path to, my man's from Canton.
I'm right.
I wasn't happy until I didn't realize it or grasp my career until I walked the last 3 steps walking to the podium in my acceptance speech at the Hall of Fame. So, just stay hungry. One mountain leads to another mountain. Nobody cares about yesterday. Win today. There's nothing you can do about yesterday. You can't do anything about tomorrow. What are you doing today?
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate it. And that's so real, too. And it's a very select group of guys that I've been around. The best players, they all have that same mindset. Even the best coaches, Marinelli, it's the same thing. Like you said, in 6 years, you maybe got 5 positive words. Yeah. I was with Marinelli it was my first, I would say, year and a half with him. I don't think he said 1 positive word towards me. And I was first every drill. I'm going running to the ball at first. I'm flying around, trying to do everything just to get a fucking good job on that. Never happened. And so it came down to it, and I'm like, I'm losing my mind. I'm going home like, what the fuck can I do more? I'm driving myself nuts.
I called my grandmother to see if my Uncle Billy could get me a job in the projects.
Hey,
I said,
that's how
I'm not going to make the team. Earl Leggett's moving me around from tackle to guard to center. I'm playing on the nose, and I'm saying I'm so bad. They're moving me around because they can't find a spot for me. And little did I know, he was thinking down the road that I'm going to put him on the nose, I'm going to put him on the guard, I'm going to put him on the tackle, I'm going to put him everywhere. Now, I didn't do well. My thing is not where you are, that air is thin out there. That's not my deal.
You like rushing inside a lot.
I want to get you in a phone booth. If we were boxers, I'd want an 8x8 ring.
Tight quarters. Hell yeah, tight quarters. Tight quarters. No, that's awesome. But it's so real. Like that's, like you said, like the Coach Marinelli thing. Like I didn't understand what he was doing at that time until I went and had a conversation. I got to the point. I'm like, I'm ready to kick his door down, and I'm like, Coach, you got to tell me. I feel like I'm doing everything. Everything you say, I'm saying yes, sir. Every drill, I'm first. What am I doing wrong? He just starts smiling at me, and I'm like, what is this crazy old man? Like, what is wrong with him? And he just starts laughing. He's like, the first day I got here, you told me you wanted to be the best at what you do. And I said, yes. And he said, okay. So that's exactly how I'm going to coach you every single day. I'm going to coach you like Warren Sapp. I'm going to coach you like Julius Peppers. That's what you want to be. I'm going to coach you like that and hold you that standard every day. And I said, listen, that's all I needed to hear. And me and our relationship, we were great after that. But I didn't understand it.
And no matter who you have from here on out,
Yep.
That foundation of him, you hear him in your head at times. You think
All the
about
time.
all the time.
All the
Think
time.
about Michael Strahan and I think about this. Earl was from Mississippi, and he was just had a big old chew in his mouth and sitting out there and just
Big old log.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So he was. They were isms, and they were things that I'd never heard in my life. You're from the Northeast. He's from Mississippi. He went to LSU. I went to Villanova. We don't have anything in common, but I was his guy, and Michael was his guy. And if there's no Earl Leggett, there's no Michael Strahan, and there's no Howie.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. So something I still want to accomplish this year in 2024 is obvious. I want to be the best in the world at what I do. I put everything into this game, put everything into my preparation, and I want to be pound for pound best player on the planet at what I do. And I plan on doing that one day at a time. Therapy can help you take stock of your progress and set achievement goals for the next 6 months. So myself, I go to therapy. I do it very often. It helps me in a lot of ways. It's not good to bury things down. It helps me because I get to get things off my chest. It gives me an outlet to be open and honest about what I have going on a daily basis. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Visit BetterHelp.com/rush today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/rush.
Howie, I want to ask you, how have you seen kind of the evolution of the edge rusher from your time to how it is now? Because we know you study the game.
Opportunities. The funny thing is the game has gotten bigger everywhere, but edge rushers come in all shapes, sizes, and it's. Yeah. I'll give you an example. Terry Bradshaw's offensive line weighed 255 pounds.
Yeah.
Joe Green was 278, 280.
Yeah.
What, they run the wing T?
No, I'll tell you what, they ran the ball a ton. Ran a lot of traps. It was a lot of like San Francisco kind of misdirection. You never get hit by the guy in front of you. It's always something. It's smoke and mirrors.
Yeah. Window dressing bullshit. Yeah.
Guys were, I think the biggest offensive line now is like 225, 325, 330. So the game has changed. What's also changed is, unlike in my time, you're throwing the ball, you're in sub packages 70+% of the time.
85%, I think, is the number. Yeah, it's crazy.
You're throwing the ball, or you're giving the illusion of a running game out of gun with kind of a trick play. And we talked about where backs the line when they're in gun. Are they level with the quarterback? Are they behind the quarterback? Are they in front of the quarterback? The things that you're supposed to be looking for. I could write down in a notebook 5 pages of things from when the break the huddle to when the ball snapped. Yeah. Things that I'm looking at. The way I always stood sideways when they broke the huddle, because the last thing you hear is what coming out of the huddle? Snap count.
Snap count, yeah.
Snap count. So you never know. You might get a shot. Then there's the guy that comes up to the line, and out of 5 offensive linemen, someone is going to forget. And it's going to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, lunes, martes, miércoles, red, white, blue, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. Same thing with blocking combinations. Yeah. I think the thing I said in terms of change, there's a lot more opportunities, and that's why Maxx's, you can't have enough corners and you can't have enough Maxx's. It's pass rush, it's coverage, because they're going to go to the third corner. If you don't have a good third corner, that's the guy they're going to. They're throwing the ball a lot now. I think Terry won a couple of championships throwing 22 times in a game.
Damn,
That's crazy.
It's changed. It's just changed. Anybody who
Yeah.
tells you different, that it's not bigger, stronger, faster, it's like, it's Clint Eastwood and Gran Torino sitting on his porch saying, "Get off my lawn." It's that.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I saw it firsthand because, I remember one year we were out in Arizona. It was the year that we were out in Arizona at our house in Arizona, and it was probably 12:30 in the morning, and Chris and Kyle were out there, and they had played against each other earlier in the year. It was the year that Kyle got in a fight and beat one of his teammates up in the game. In the game, it was just
Nice.
bodies are flying everywhere. Chris was on the sideline and ran out, and I said, "What were you thinking when you ran out there?" He said, "Please no, it's me. Please no, it's me." So here they are kind of relitigating, this whole thing. And they're in boxer shorts and T-shirts. And they're both, Chris is, looks like a G.I. Joe doll. And Kyle's just a slab of 335 pounds of muscle. And, and I'm thinking to myself, because I've had my neck done, I've had my back done, shoulder replaced, elbow done, hand done, knee, calf, ankle, you name it. I'm thinking to myself, how in the hell am I going to break this up? If these two, because they have different viewpoints on how the game went or what happened or whatever. So I'm looking at it and I'm saying that was kind of the aha moment for me in terms of, boy, it's changed. It's bigger, stronger, faster.
No doubt. And that's why you got to appreciate every era too, because the game, like you said, it evolves, it changes, the play style changes. It's like in basketball, everyone tries to compare Wilt Chamberlain to the modern guy and be like, well, he's not as big enough and blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, well, this dude didn't have the modern technology or didn't even know what a cold bath was or didn't know how to use a stem machine, and all that stuff matters.
We didn't have any of all the stuff that you talked about earlier on with recuperation and all that, deep tissue, chiropractors. There was none of that.
I was going to say, what were y'all doing? Y'all were recovering, just
They're
smoking darts,
Nothing.
smoking darts in the locker room and drinking Coors.
Nothing.
Numb the pain with a dart.
Their guys show up in the huddle with they smelled like they just now left the bar.
Yes.
No, it is crazy.
Times.
Simpler times. But it's funny, like, I watch on The Last Dance, too, and, like, Michael Jordan's one of the most freakish, crazy athletes in the world, and he was like, yeah, I just drank a couple beers, I smoked my cigar, and I came down to shoot around and then went out and dropped 50 points. I'm like, they were built different back then, but that was just, like, normal. I feel like the culture was a lot different back then, too. It's just, like, how was that? What was it like in the locker room and shit? I can't even imagine.
There were no insiders. There's no podcasts. There's no cell phones.
Yeah.
There's no internet. So think about it. A guy could disappear hypothetically. I'm just going to say this hypothetically.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, a guy could disappear for 2 days in the middle of the week and play on Sunday, and the beat writer maybe looked the other way.
Yeah.
When you got your news about the Raiders early on the East Coast, it was UPI or AP, and it was that. There's no ESPN. There's nothing. You got in a fight in practice. You got in a fight in the locker room, allegedly there were fights on planes.
Allegedly.
This is perfect because you're just leading me to my next question. So this is great. Just keep going.
All you have to do is, if you get this one phrase down, I have no knowledge of the aforementioned incident.
I plead the
fifth. No idea. Exactly. And it's great that you brought up, alleged fights on the, on the plane and, in the locker room. Who was, I can't single them out. I would say, what was the craziest fight you've ever seen on the practice field? Was it a joint practice? Was it just between, you guys, was there some massive brawls? You got to give us a little bit of insight. You don't have to name every name, but
I'll let you go in. I'll let you go into the facility and ask what was the most brutal fight
oh God,
at practice.
who should I ask? Scotty or Scotty Touche, or who should I talk to?
Bobby Romansky.
Bobby Romansky. All right. I'll make sure to do that.
He's probably the only guy left. I mean, I saw guys get into it on the field, and you think, okay, that's done. And the next thing you know, one guy's legs, he's stuck in the locker, and his feet are, you saw it all. Guys on the plane, guy sits in a guy's seat, quiet guy, and I'm not going to name any names, quiet guy.
Yeah.
Has a son who plays in the league now. I think he's still playing in the league. Really quiet guy. Went to the bathroom, and this guy from a school back east, high draft pick.
Hence, we'll do it.
Sits in the chair, and quiet guy comes by and says, "Hey, would you mind? You're in my seat." And he said, "Yeah," and he blew him off. And one more time, he said, "Hey, man, you got to get out of my seat. I want to sit down. It's a long flight." He blew him off again and just, knocked him out. It was like one punch. I just closed.
He made him ask him twice. That's the problem here.
100%.
No, three times. The third time.
Oh,
no. He was asking for it.
Lyle was crazy.
Oh, there we go. I knew
Lyle was crazy, but not a lot in our. He did, and you could get away with these things kind of a little bit more in games, where Lyle would take a helmet off and start beating somebody with it, and he's still in the game.
Good.
That's crazy.
It was a different time. I had some problems at practice, not a lot, but and I think it was important to deal with it and just address it, and if you knew how to fight, you could do things that maybe wouldn't put your hand in jeopardy, or Lyle would kick you, throw you, rip your helmet off, chuck it 20 yards downfield. He was like, I used to walk in and say, I say good morning, and base the rest of my day on how he responded. Because at one point we got him a mood ring, because the mood ring was either on white and bright or down and brown. He was that volatile. He was a sweetheart of a guy. He was the hottest of hotheads. One time we were down at the gym in Venice, and he took I think it was a 10-pound plate. He just chased these guys around the gym, beating them with a 10-pound plate.
Just because?
Just
for the fuck of it?
Well, no, something had happened. I wasn't right there. It doesn't take a lot. It's like if you've got a dry forest and you just throw a
little match. Yeah.
I called him 3 Mile Island.
3 Mile Island.
3 Mile Lyle, because you never knew when 3 Mile Island was going to blow. He was a nuclear plant. He really was.
R.I.P.
That's funny.
You said you had
we took this is a true story. Here's how different things are now than they were then. We always, 1982, we practiced in Oakland and played in L.A.
Yeah.
It was a strike-shortened year. Lyle told me I was living with him at the Oakland Airport Hilton. And we had a single room with 2 queen beds. And every night at 9 o'clock, he got a piece of chocolate cake and a glass of milk. And he'd eat it, drink it. He'd shut the light off and shut the TV off. Never, hey, are you watching this? Or, do you mind if I shut this off? I'm 22 years old, 23 years old.
Yeah.
I hear you, man. That's what Lyle said. That's that dog again.
Yeah.
And ask Marcus about this. When you see Marcus, ask Marcus about this, because Marcus was living across the hall from us, and I used to get a roll-out cot and go sleep over there. True story. When we went to the games down in L.A., our first game in L.A., we'd go to the hotel, we'd go to team dinner. We had bed check, legitimate bed check, flashlights and everything. We had to have bed check.
Yeah.
And in the morning, we'd have breakfast and we'd do special teams.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you do that, but
that's the same thing. That's what we do. We start with special teams. Yeah.
We start with special teams, and you got the L1, Maxx, Crosby, Howie Long. And after that's done, you go back up your room for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you hang out and you take the team bus. Lyle and I would go right from there, get in a cab, and we'd go right to the stadium. Now we're in LA for the first time. I don't know my way around. He doesn't know his way around, and the driver obviously doesn't know where he's going. Because Lyle told him we're going to go to the stadium, and Lyle obviously it looks like he benches 570.
Godzilla.
God, he's like spot me. What do you want me to do?
You're like, I can't help you.
Drops on you. I can't help you.
Nobody's helping you if this goes down.
Yeah.
Need 3 people to spot him.
So we drive and we pull into the stadium, and the parking lot's empty. Stadium's empty. It's Dodger Stadium. Lyle, the 3-mile Lyle goes to, total red. Because we like to get there early. Lyle would get dressed. He'd get spatted. He'd have a T-shirt on, his game pants on, game socks, shoes, and spat. And he'd lay down on the floor, and he'd go to sleep. And I would go over all the formations. I would sit there and go over all the formations.
Yeah.
So fast forward to 83, we're going to the Super Bowl. We're in Tampa Bay. And we go to breakfast in the morning. We go through special teams. Lyle and I get in a cab, and we take a cab to the Super Bowl. Try to envision that. Now,
that's insane.
And nowadays, streets are blocked. There's snipers on the roof. It's crazy. So this guy takes us to the stadium. We get stuck in traffic 3/4 of a mile from the stadium. And Lyle wants a guy to go up on the curb. He's not going to go up on the curb. Again, the needle's going to go from here to here. We got to get out of the car. We walked through the parking lot through tailgaters for 3/4 of a mile. Washington and Raider tailgaters for 3/4 of a mile to get to the stadium. The one thing that I remember most about that game at the end of the game, there's a lot to remember because it all goes, as you can imagine, you're going to get in a game like that, hopefully, and you'll remember everything. Is Lyle played in Denver, he played in Cleveland, and he played with us. And I think he was 33, 34 when I was 22, 23. And he never won and wanted so badly to win. And I remember as the clock was ticking down, there's Lyle, the guy we're talking about, who's, card-carrying bad man. Standing on the sidelines, just crying like a baby, just so happy. Yeah, so there were a lot of really crazy situations I saw. A lot of which nobody talks about. It's like Fight Club.
Yeah, stays in house.
We don't talk about Fight Club.
Stays in house.
But you could ask Bobby Romansky. Ask Bobby Romansky the bloodiest fight ever.
I'll ask him first thing in the morning. It's always me and Bob. Literally, we walk in at the same time. So
I love Bobby. Bobby's great.
Oh, he's the best. He's the best. No, that's awesome. I was gonna ask you too. Like, obviously, you talk about the culture, and it was just so much different. But back then, in those days, y'all created your own culture, and you made history. What do you think it was as far as, was it Al Davis? Do you think pushing that culture, or what do you think it was? Just a culmination of everything, or what's your personal opinion on what made y'all, so special?
Well, Al was, I called him Mr. Davis. I never called him Al. I called him Mr. Davis. He was the smartest by a wide margin football mind of any owner in football. He knew everything about the game, could draw up the game plan. He coached the Raiders to the biggest single turnaround when they first became a franchise. They went from winning like one game to, I think 9 or 10 games, and, it was a big turnaround. Ron Wolf, they didn't have titles in the building. Ron Wolf was the GM. He's in the Hall of Fame. Look up Ron Wolf when you get off.
Oh, yeah.
Ron Wolf,
I've heard that name.
He built Tampa Bay Buccaneers from scratch, came to the Raiders, helped build those championship teams, went to Green Bay, Reggie White, Brett Favre, brought the Green Bay Packers back to prominence. Brilliant, brilliant guy. And then we don't care where you're from in terms of personnel. We don't care if you're from Eastern Maryland Shore. We don't care if you're from a historically black college. We don't care if you're from Villanova. There was a type they wanted: big, strong, fast, tough.
Yeah.
And they had it in abundance. Cliff Branch, God rest his soul, he was such a great guy. I mean, Clifford was, I think he could still run a 4.4 at 65. Really, he was, at one point, we talk about the planet, at one point I think he was, if not the fastest guy on the planet, he was one of the top 3. And every time he broke the huddle, he threw the fear of God in the people. It's kind of like great players, like when I guarantee on Monday when teams meet, the first topic of conversation is how do we stop Maxx?
Yeah.
The second problem is when we break the huddle, we need to find him. Where is he? And what are we going to throw at him? You know what Kansas City's going to throw at you. You have a pretty good idea of that. You know what Denver is going to throw at you, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much. It's going to look 100%. A little different with the quarterback.
Yeah.
The one you got to kind of figure out, you're going to have to figure it out in a hurry, is the Chargers. Yeah. Because he's a different animal. The head coach is a different animal, and he prides himself on being very tough, and this team's being tough. And I think, again, they're going to have to break the huddle and try to figure out a way to deal with you. But I think it was the players and the older players bringing the younger players along. Here's Archell and Gene Upshaw, 2 offensive linemen who are, whipping my ass early on. And while they're doing that, they're helping you out. Yeah. They're giving you guidance. And Art was a quiet, he didn't talk a lot. When he did, people listened. I played with Art and I played for Art, which was a unique experience. Gene was nonstop. He was just talk. He was larger than life.
I love it.
It was great. Jim Plunkett is just like Jim is now when you see Jim. Jim's a quiet guy, tough guy, played big in the biggest games. Probably should be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure what that's all about, but and I saw where somebody said maybe because he's a Raider, but I think that's really is something where some of the voters think, well, there's too many Raiders in the Hall of Fame. What does that matter?
Yeah. What does it matter?
You pick the best players. Pick the best players.
Period.
Yes.
Period. So it's the culture, it perpetuated itself at generation after generation. And I did the same thing. Chester McLaughlin lived in He says he lived in my barn. God rest his soul. He lived in my guest house. He said it was a barn. Chester was, hey, Maxx. Wow. He was 6'5", 6'4". When he came to us, 375. Could hoop, but couldn't play 10 plays in a row.
Yeah.
And we got him down to like 325, 330. And he could run over you and he could run around you. He was a great player.
That's crazy.
I miss Chet. I miss Chester. Yeah, we had great, Greg Townsend.
I was going to say, I was going to bring up Greg Townsend.
Greg Townsend had never put his hand on the ground in college.
Damn.
So now we draft him. Bill Pickell has never played nose guard. Sean Jones could barely get into a stance. He has over 100 sacks. Greg Townsend's got over 100 sacks.
Yeah.
Bill Pickell was, as selfless, 6'6", big man, the best teammate you could possibly have. He's the guy you call at 2 a.m. in a snowstorm in a bad neighborhood with a flat.
Yeah.
He'll be there. So you had a culture within the room. Our room had a great culture. And people didn't bother us, And we had a great don't get me wrong, we had a great secondary, Van McElroy, Lester and Mike Haynes and Ted Hendricks. Ted was the smartest football player I ever played with.
I've heard that before too.
He'd come in on Monday, still he just came in from wherever he was. And
the strip club or bar.
They put up the film of whatever team we were playing, the cut-up film of whatever team we're playing. He'd lean over and say, Bill Joker, Bob Chotto, here comes the tight end motion. Be ready for that. I'm going to send you on a jet rep. And we would one time we were up in Denver. I got dinged up in Denver, and I'm sitting this is the first year starting. And I played right next to Ted, and Lester was on the outside.
Yeah.
And I get dinged. I'm sitting on the bench. They're trying to, hey, what day is it? What year is it? Who's your coach? Who are you married to? That kind of thing. And somebody yells at me. I think it was might have been Coach Flores even. Howie, you got to get a game. The doctors override. The doctors do whatever. They were doing, an obligatory job. Ted had called a timeout and said he wasn't going to play without me. Who does that?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Ted was, what a group. Tom Flores' ability to coach that group of players, winning 2 Super Bowls, the 80-81 team and the 83-84 team, is pretty amazing. And they were 2 very different teams. Yeah. And he's a good man. Good man.
No, that's incredible.
Howie, you mentioned the culture. Obviously, we've been talking about it quite a bit here, and how Maxx and this team need to kind of build their own culture, so to speak, moving forward. But for you, is it kind of cool seeing them, spark the cigars back in the day? Is it cool for you to see Maxx and the team, a little bit of last season, sparking the cigars, playing with like a nastiness, so to speak, which I think comes with Maxx's play already in general, but which feels like a throwback Raider type player. But is that cool for you as a guy who's been in the building, gone through those times, to kind of see the new era of guys kind of taking off where you guys left off?
Well, I've always kind of felt like there's every group and each side of the ball has a kind of a lead dog. And, what I mean by that, it's a guy that kind of, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday sets the tempo. He's the guy that he's not talking about it. He's doing it, and he's trying to bring you along and hopefully you want to come along for the ride, but you're going to look pretty sorry if you're not playing at the same kind of speed and intensity and physicality and all those things. It's like I told my boys when they played, I said, look, I don't care what's going on around you. And you've had to be in this situation a lot, Max, because things haven't always been good on offense. And no matter what happens, no matter what the scores, no matter what's happening around you, you just get in your phone booth and play your ass off. Just play. Just play. That's all you control. Hopefully the rest of it kind of, Chris had a group. It was at one point Robert Quinn and
AD and they had some guys.
That whole group, and that group was, and they had good DBs and really good group, and the offense was horrible and it was bad, and I see signs of that changing for you guys. Hopefully, your young quarterback, takes another step. You bring in somebody else in free agency, and he's a gamer, and he's a guy that maybe won't shock you at practice, but for whatever reason, when he plays in the game, he plays well.
Makes shit happen. Yeah.
I so enjoy watching you play, and so proud of you. And it's been a real treat for me. And I tell everybody I can, you're just you're as good as it gets, man.
No, I appreciate it. What obviously being on the other side of things now, being on TV and being a former player, Hall of Famer, what gets you up in the morning? Like, what's that new thrill for you? Because I know as a player, and guys talk about all the time, like once you're done playing, you got to find that other thing to keep you going, because we're wired similarly. Like we want to be the best at what we do. We need that thrill, that borderline scary type of deal. You know what I mean? Like that's what gets you going. What is that for you nowadays?
Well, when I retired, the kids were, getting older and older. Chris was 8 or 9. I took a job at Fox. Fox had just got the TV package. It was new, it's exciting. It's live TV. What I get out of Fox, and we talk about it all the time, it's the camaraderie, it's the locker room, it's a good group, it's respect, it's everyone has a reason to peacock up on that set, because everyone on the set has a gold jacket and has won Super Bowls, and it's a good group. What got me was when my boys started to play, and I coached high school football for 8 years, and I coached Little League baseball for 8 years. Kyle got drafted by the White Sox out of high school. What's he going to do? Is he going to go play baseball? He went to Florida State for a semester. You can relate to this. The only thing that went well down at Florida State was baseball, and pulled him out of school. And Kyle sat dormant for about a year and a half and didn't do anything, and walked into a junior college out in I guess the point I'm trying to make is this: what ends up becoming your life and your passion is, the job is great. It's exciting. We've done a lot of Super Bowls. We've been to Afghanistan. We've done shows off in the Mediterranean on the Harry S. Truman. We've been to the Naval Academy, the Army Academy. We've been to bases across the world. A lot of really cool stuff. But when your kids start to grow up, and particularly with boys, it's a lot to deal with, and there's a lot to do, and there are things that you can help them with, and I felt obligated to do that, and that became my passion. I'd fly home on a red eye and be there for team stretch on Monday and see it through to the game. I didn't coach during the game because I didn't want to be a distraction, but I thought, look, I can't help you with your chemistry homework, but I can tell you how to hit somebody. I can tell you how to play, what it takes to do this and to do it right. Yep. And I'd like to think that both of them kind of turned out okay. And Chris is they're two different guys, and I guess that's symptomatic of one's a defensive lineman and one's an offensive lineman. They're
two totally different wirings.
Two different wirings. Chris is wired for sound, man. He works at it. That's what he does. Where he gets his fix is nobody watches more film. Nobody studies harder for what he does than him. He knows the salary cap, the contract situations. He knows where everyone plays. It's really amazing. He does a great job. And Kyle's the kind of guy that's turn the camera on, let's go. I'm good to go. They're just two different guys. Same house, same love, same rules, same circumstances, and they're two totally different guys.
Love it.
That's awesome.
Transitioning from the field to the booth. I know we got Tom Brady. Everybody's keeping an eye out for him next year. He's stepping into the booth. What are your thoughts on how that transition will be? And what were some difficult aspects that you kind of ran into when you made that transition?
I was wired tight when I retired. And it took me a while because, number one, there were no women in the building when we played. Mm-hmm. None. There were no trainers, no anything. So now you're going into TV, and there's producers, there's directors, there's editors, there's it's a mixed bag of people. And if you have a problem, you send an email, or you send a text, or you
got to go to HR.
If
I was gonna say you send it by pigeon foot.
If I came from a world where if you had a problem, I could lie in bed that night, and I could think to myself, inside run period, that's where I'm going to get it.
Yeah.
And I go take care of it in inside run period. I wasn't a text or a memo so it took me a while to figure that out, and I got that figured out, thankfully, and Terry was a big help with that, and grew on that. But that was a big change. The biggest change I had when I left was kind of adapting to that. But I've come to enjoy it. Those guys are great. They make you laugh. They're guys that you can not be around for 3 months and pick up the phone, and it's like you just saw them yesterday and you just did 5 shows with them. They're great.
How does a guy because I've heard you mention, Howie, awesome, that on other shows that Terry is basically like an uncle. Your kids call him uncle. How does a guy who's so elite at terrorizing a quarterback, smacking him and putting him on the ground, become so close with one another? Like, how did that come about, and how do you guys remain that friendship for so long?
Boston, Louisiana, Baptist, Catholic, quarterback, Steeler, Raider, defensive lineman. It's all different. And early on, we had a couple bumps early on, and we've talked about it. We've laughed about it, and we got through it. And he's truly one of the best friends I have, and he makes me laugh a lot. He's as funny off the air as he is on the air. He's a born performer. When I spoke to him the other day, he was up in Branson, Missouri. He sings up there at some elderly, dinner theater.
What?
Yeah.
What?
That's the Silver Dollar City.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, what are we doing? I said, do you have any groups? He said, well, they can't get up. So I don't move a lot.
I love
it. He's great, and I've said that. I have said that the kids kind of view him as an uncle, because you got to remember, my kids were 8, 4, and 3 when I retired, so they've grown up at Fox. This is our 31st year, and Terry is kind of like, if you ever saw the movie Uncle Buck,
great movie
with John Candy. If you haven't, you got to watch it.
Uncle Buck, I got to see that.
Uncle Buck, John Candy, and picture John Candy only with a Louisiana accent. And all the inappropriate stuff that I preach you can't do. I'm buttoned up around the kids and don't do this, don't do that. Got to do this, got to work hard, got to and Terry's calling him up about something.
He's a
that's totally
funkle. He's a funkle, right? Someone's got to be the fun uncle.
Yeah, he's a fun uncle.
He calls my wife with just the worst dirty jokes. It's just terrible. She doesn't think he's funny, so he tries to call her and tell her funny jokes, and she's not funny, Terry. Not funny.
He said it's terrible.
Terrible.
I want to ask you one more thing. So, in your prime, yourself, and then your son Kyle in his prime, could you get a sack on him? I'm not going to ask you who wins in a fight. I feel like everyone asks you that. So,
I'll tell you before he got hurt, and Bill Belichick said this to me up in New England because he had him up there for a week. The Bears practiced with the Patriots, and Chris was there, and they practiced against each other. And I was in the bowels of the stadium, and Bill pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Howie," he said, "that other boy of yours, Kyle," said he's the best guard in football. I don't go down on the field. When they played, I didn't get out on the field. I felt like that was kind of their thing. I wanted to stay as much in the periphery as I could. And one year, Chicago was playing in the Hall of Fame game. I said to myself, I'm in the Hall of Fame. I've got a Hall of Fame jacket on. Why don't I just walk down and watch Kyle warm up? So I go down there to that corner. The D line, I don't know what corner you go to, Max, but the O line usually goes to the other corner. And I get out of that corner, and he runs a play from the 5, and they go out, and he's walking back. And as he's walking back to me, that son of a bitch got bigger and bigger and bigger. and he's my son, and I know that. I see him in clothes. But you can see guys in clothes. Yeah. You know what I mean? Max, you know what I mean? You see guys in clothes.
Of course.
It doesn't really capture who they are. And he's walking up to me, and I said, what would I do with that? I'll tell you what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't run to darkness. I would attack his edges. I'd go
I was going to say, run down the middle, it's over.
I would not go down the beat of his neck. No,
hell no. That was like when I first seen, I've talked about Trent Brown a few times. When I first seen him, he was a dinosaur. But Richie Incognito, fully taped up, walking into a practice, I'm like, I don't know where you're going to get around this dude because his shoulders are just as wide as he is tall. Yeah. And taped to the gills. I'm like, this dude is not human. Yeah. I've never seen a human being that big. It's a whole different game.
There's some guys that you go, and they've gotten bigger. Some of these tackles. You look at these tackles, my God, they walk out of the tunnel. I remember the only high school game I ever went to was a Raider game.
Yeah, that's
ironically enough, and it was the Raiders versus the Patriots, and I think they were they were either the New England or Boston Patriots at the time, and it was old Schaefer Stadium. It wasn't a new stadium. And I had fractured my ankle my senior year in high school. And the Raiders ran out of the tunnel, and it's, Art Shell and Gene Upshaw, and they just look like a biker gang. And I was like, wow, that team's great. And ironically enough, here we are, Max, you and me.
Yep. Unbelievable. Yeah. That my first time seeing an NFL player up close was the same thing. I was in high school, and ironically, it was the Rod Marinelli D line for the Bears, and he was going against the Cowboys, and it was a Monday night game. I think I was a sophomore, freshman in high school, and I walk up to the tunnel. I'm about to see the Bears walk out, and I looked up, and I seen Julius Peppers from close range, and I was like, bro, I'll never play in the NFL ever. I said, I can lift and run every day until I get 21 years old. I will never look like that.
I just saw Julius Peppers 2 weeks ago at the Hall of Fame, and again, that motherfucker, his hands dwarfed him. He came and shook my hand.
Literally tennis rackets.
I was like, God.
Yeah. Hey, biggest person you'll ever see. And and you'll see him, I'm sure, if you haven't seen him at some point. Jonathan Ogden.
I've heard.
No.
I've seen film of this dude.
No.
He looks.
His head is that big. I mean, and you want to talk about a guy who was ahead of his time.
Literally.
Could dance. Yeah, he could. It was in 2 time zones. He's just one of those guys where you go, oh my God.
My God.
And it's such a great player. Moved like a basketball player. And I've seen you hoop and you could play. This guy could play. At 350, 360 could play.
That's insane.
God.
He's like a dancing bear.
Him and Orlando Pace were like the gold standard for a few years. Those dudes are different beasts.
Jonathan he's different.
Yeah.
Good guy, really good guy. Really good.
No doubt.
Howie, I got one last one before we get into the segments. We've made a few mentions of Canton, but I always tell Max whenever he has his speech and he gets inducted, we're going to shut Canton down and throw a banger here. But from your perspective, what's it going to take for Maxx to be able to put on that gold jacket and get his bust in Canton, Ohio?
Stay hungry. Stay focused. It has to be you have to have great family, that understands, and because like I said, the window is here and the rest of your life is here. I'm 31 years into my post life of football. And those 13 years went by like that. You have the opportunity now. Health is everything. Health and mentality is everything. If you keep those 2 things, if you're lucky enough to keep your health, and like I said, maybe, talk about getting the snaps down a little bit, not a lot. I mean, listen,
Yeah.
you're not going to be off the field, a lot. They're not going to have Matt Crosby off the field a lot. But if there's, an insignificant, 3rd and 2 or 4 on the 30-yard line of them coming out, or a couple of plays there to give you a blow is not going to hurt things. And stay healthy, and if you have some luck, you will. And if you stay hungry and you want to just be the best you can be. People talk about, I compete with this guy. Those guys you're looking at those guys, you're watching them. It's not about them. It's about you.
Amen.
Because everybody's different, There were guys that could do things that I couldn't do. But, I'd like to think I could do a lot of things that a lot of guys couldn't do. Tackle the inside shoulder to tackle to inside shoulder to tackle, and you just have to feel that way, and you have to kind of live it. And you have so much, all you have at your fingertip in terms of, recovery and treatment, and off season, and the practices, training camps better than it was. It used to be, it was brutal. It was 2 days. We started every practice with 42 up downs in the defensive line individual period. It was just brutal. Full gear, inside run, goal line, everything was live. So imagine doing that for 6 weeks, and then doing the season. So you're in position. You're in position now, and I don't like to talk about no hitters, and you're on the path, you're on the road, and you're driving the car, man, and where it goes is up to you. But I love the way you play. Michael loves the way you play. We tend to be tough graders for defensive linemen. I want to know what you're like. I don't want to know what you're like when you're up by 15 or 20. And, they're in sub package trying to play catch up and no huddle and all that. I want to know what you're like when you're down by 15 and there's nothing to play for, and they're in 2 tight ends and they're running the shit out of the ball just to jam the ball down your throat. I want to know who's playing. I'm taking numbers. He's playing, he's not playing. That's when you want to see.
100%.
Yep.
Yes, sir. No, I appreciate that. I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
I got a lot of work to do, so I'm
You
going
know
to keep
what?
working. You already know.
It never stops. It never stops.
Never.
It never. It'll hopefully stop for you when you take those steps, those last steps.
Yes, sir. Those last 3 steps.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Well, Max, you want to kick it over to the Mount Rush?
Yeah, so we have a segment called Mount Rush, and we break down, we ask, everybody on the show, who is your Mount Rushmore, your 4 best at your position. So in your opinion, who's the great, I'm gonna break it down to this. Who are the Mount Rush of Raiders in your opinion?
Oh, boy.
I'm putting you on the
There's
spot.
friendships on the line.
This is hard. I couldn't even.
Well,
There's a lot of friendships on
Art
the line.
Shell, Gene Upshaw, Cliff Branch. Let's start with Ted Hendricks.
No, we're talking straight D lineman.
Oh,
straight D lineman. Straight D lineman. Mount Rush.
See,
Rushman.
I have to be honest with you on this. I really didn't know a lot about the defensive linemen in the late 70s, early 70s. I didn't know a lot about them. I didn't play football growing up, Max. So that part of history, I know Otis Sistrunk. I know, there are players who are really good players. I can give you kind of a, Jim Otto, obviously, Art, Gene, Dave Casper, Cliff Branch, Warren Wells, Marcus Allen, golly, let's say defense, Willie Brown, Mike Haynes, Lester Hayes. The
Savage.
The safeties, were so physical, so great. I don't know a lot about linebackers really. Defensive front would be.
I was gonna say, who's your 4D lineman?
Well, Greg Townsend has to be there. That's for sure. I'm going to go with what I know. I'm going to go with what I know, and hopefully someone has another opinion of somebody who's come before, and that's great, and I appreciate that and respect that. I'm going to go Reggie Kinlaw, who was as good a 2-gap nose guard as I've seen. I'm going to go with Lyle. I'm going to go with Chester McLaughlin.
Massive.
Yourself, sir.
Here? I don't listen. I'm not putting myself on the team. I'm putting these guys on the team.
We're excluding me and Howie.
I'll find a place. I mean, it's like I said, where's Max going to play? I said, we'll find a place for him.
We'll find a place.
We'll find a place.
They can play. They can play.
If you could play, Max, you're willing to play anywhere, right?
Yep,
You're willing
100%.
to stand up over the nose. You're willing to go over the guard. You're willing to go over the tackle, tight end, whatever. You could do all those things, and that's what makes you great.
Amen.
I
I
hope
appreciate
that
it. Same to you.
That's a way around your question. That's a tough.
Yeah, that was a nice 30-man Mount Rush, but it's all good.
When you think
it's
about,
good.
Okay, let's think about.
There's too many. You can't.
Okay, Freddie Blendikoff.
Yeah,
I mean,
he has to be.
Right.
Yeah, there's too many. There's too many.
There's too many. It's
There's too many.
Trust me, it's
Freddie B. I love Freddie B. That dude is awesome. Absolute legend.
He's the best.
Yeah, he's the best. You talk about raunchy old dudes. He's the same. He fits in that bracket.
He's the same guy. He was the player, coach, tough. He was tough. Tough player, great player, big game player.
Oh yeah.
Super Bowl MVP.
You mentioned there's so many guys to name, but I remember the first time I stepped foot on that field down there before Max's game, and it was all Hall of Famers. And in my head, I'm like, my God, there's hundreds. I mean, there is, you know what I mean? That's probably a little exaggerated, but it's like you're in awe of the rich history behind the Raiders, but also just how many legends truly have blessed the organization, been through here, the same shoes.
Bob Brown. I forgot Bob Brown, offensive tackle Bob Brown. Yeah, I forgot Bob Brown.
No.
See, I didn't play with Bob, so and I didn't watch them play. So I'm really not as versed on them. The guys that had such a big impact on me was the generation just before me. The Arts, the Genes, the Ted Hendrickses, Cliff Branch, all those guys, Jim Plunkett, all those guys.
Rush mail. So we do. Condor Cartel submits some questions for us. Pig76 wants to know what does being a Raider mean now versus when you were a rookie?
Well, it means the same thing to the guy sitting right next to you that it meant to me when I was a rookie and when I right now at 64 years old. It's everything. I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. I wouldn't want to play anywhere else. I know there were people that tried to trade for me, and I'm sure there are people that tried to trade for you, Max.
Yeah.
And Mark, I think, is sharp enough to understand that, there are guys that you just don't trade. And I know Chicago and Cleveland were trying to get me, and as part of that whole Marino, John Elway thing.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
I called Ron Wolf on my way into the Hall of Fame. I was driving into the Hall of Fame, and I said, "You son of a, were you going to trade me?"
Say, I just got to know this before I get inducted.
I did.
Were you really?
Here we are, 30 years
trade me,
later. I
you
said,
son of a-
"Were you really going to trade me?" He said, "Al said you know."
I need to know if I need to leave you in my speech or not.
I said, "Look, I'd have traded me for John Elway, but it was a 3-team trade thing with Denver and Chicago and the Raiders, and the Raiders would have ended up getting John Elway, and
Holy
trade.
shit!
Yeah,
that would have changed history. My God,
right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right. So it means the same to me. When I drove that used Coupe de Ville I bought for $8,500 out to Oakland,
Hell yeah.
It means the same exact thing to me as it did then, as it does now.
Tyler Edwards says, "Do you think that Maxx Crosby will break your sack record?"
Oh, I don't even what's sack. Oh yeah, I don't really. I think Khalil tied it.
Yeah, what is Khalil at?
No, I say him 5 in a game.
I think.
Oh shit!
I think he's talking about your career number.
Oh God, he'll be by my career number in a heartbeat. Max.
You're 91 and a half, right?
Max will fill you in on this. The difference between a 2-gap defensive front and a 4-man front is it's like Alaska and Bermuda.
California,
Yeah, it's like
no, literally.
So your opportunities, I remember looking at teams that like Minnesota and great players that I watched play there, and Chicago, and there were great players in the 80s that played there, and you're watching their systems and their scheme. I'm like, oh my God, you could play in that scheme. So
yeah, the tier link and the Marinelli. This is different.
Yeah,
Johnny
Randall. Yeah,
John Randall and those guys, and who was the other big white D tackle? Marinelli's gonna kill me for forgetting his name, but 75.
Oh, Millard.
He was the other
I have his helmet.
Millard, Keith Millard.
I have his helmet here. Hey, this
Legend.
guy was. I'll tell you what.
He had the slap rip.
Watch him a little bit more. He's kind of got a lot of you in him.
He's got some shit to him.
He was like
no doubt.
a lot of this, and it was like I said, you're like Gumby. You just like a big rubber. It's like your body goes into positions that I couldn't even get in.
Yeah.
Millard had some of that.
He did.
Millard,
he really
definitely.
did. Great player.
Yeah, he's a fun dude to watch.
They had a great front. Chris Dolman. Hall
Yep,
of Fame
Chris
player.
Dolman.
Great player.
He's top 10.
Great player.
Top 10 sacks ever.
Yep. Great player.
Yeah. But no, it's true, like you're saying, like being a 2-gapper guy. The fact that you had over 90 sacks in that scheme is doesn't get talked about enough. It's unbelievable. But I think at the end of the day, there's a reason why guys and just people in general talk about Howie Long because of the impact. The film, Marinelli told me this since day one. He said, your film is all that matters. He goes, the numbers, all that stuff, it's going to come, it's going to be great, whatever. He goes, but when people turn your film on, the ones that know, the coaches, the players, that's the opinion that matters at the end of the day. So, I've watched your film a lot.
Thank you. Al used to say to me, don't worry about the numbers. He said, you be disruptive.
Yep.
And you're disruptive. And you're a guy he wouldn't trade.
Man.
That's for sure.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good. That's what we do for Rushmail. So, Max, you want to take us home?
Awesome. Yeah, we'll take us home. Can't tell you how much we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on. I got your number. We'll be in contact throughout the season and going forward. But we just want to say we appreciate you, brother, and we'll have you back on in person maybe in the near future when all the guys get to Vegas. We would love that.
If you're ever stuck in a flat tire in a snowstorm in a bad neighborhood, I'm the guy you call.
Hey, same here, brother. Call me anytime.
All right, man.
You're the best. All right, brother.
Thanks, bud.
Walk up in the light. Yeah, I'm really him. Talking my shit like I'm really him.